Hello everyone and welcome to a 3G Daisy Player demonstration. In this session I'll go over how to operate the Daisy Player, how to return books and perhaps a little bit of troubleshooting tips so that you can help people out in the field. By having a quick tour of the Daisy Player so that we can all become familiar with the buttons on the Daisy Player, which I should say is a 3G Daisy Player. On the back we have an aerial which is used to pick up the signal. On the left hand side we have a USB slot, a headphone socket which is a universal headphone socket, and we have an SD card slot. On the top of the player we have the left grey button, which is a tone button used for altering the tone of a voice on a recording. People who have issues with hearing are the ones that probably use this button the most. Next to it is the volume button. The top half of the button increases the volume, the lower part decreases it. To the right of that we have the speaker, and directly below that is the small sleep timer button, which I will talk about later. The rubbery whitish button that we have here is the power button, and below that directly is a square return button which we use to return the books that have been listened to on the player. Next to this we have the bookshelf button, which allows our borrowers to go up and down the bookshelf to choose what type of book they would like to listen to. And next to that is the set of 3 control buttons. The middle button is the play stop button, and to the left is the rewind button, and to the right is the fast forward button. So these buttons are all that is required to operate the player. So the next thing we will do is turn on the player. All you need to do to turn the player on is give this round button here a good hard push.
Please wait.
And a voice will come on to explain that the player is starting to connect to the network and join up with our computers. This can take a little bit of time, but there is always a noise present so that borrowers know that something is happening.
Australia network, or press and hold the rewind key to cancel.
And this may be repeated, this phrase that has just been said may be repeated a couple of times while the connection happens. And often people say to us, oh, it takes a long time to connect, but we just have to let it go through its course of turning on so that the right books can be sent to the player. You may have heard that tiny little beep, and that beep means that the connection has commenced. Now that I've turned the player on, it's time that we chose the book that we want to listen to today. So as I said early on, this is the bookshelf button, and we use this key to choose what book we want to listen to, or magazine or newspaper. So if I tap this arrow here,
Bookshelf.
Second Son by Lee Child expires Tuesday the 9th of October. Hear this Friday, August 10th, 2018.
Bookshelf.
Plex Talk 3G Getting Started Guide by expires Wednesday the 29th of July.
and it's worth mentioning here that every player that we send out comes out with instructions already on the player, and not everyone realises that's what they are, but it's handy for people to know that they are there. And as we move through the list,
Your Hills Are Too High, An Australian Childhood by Rosalind Taylor expires Monday the 13th of August. I Can Jump Puddles by Alan Marshall expires Sunday the 26th of August. Travel Friday, June 1st, 2018. Hear This Friday, August 3rd, 2018. The Age, Saturday, August 4th. The Australian Financial Review, Saturday, August 4th. The Dry by Jane Harper expires Tuesday the 9th of October.
so if we decide that we're going to listen to The Dry by Jane Harper, and you will have noticed that each one of those readings had the name of the book, the author, and when the title was due back. And this, we also leave messages on the bookshelf to tell people when books are due to be returned, so that if people need more time in reading a title, that they can give us a ring on the phone and we will extend the borrowing time. So we're going to listen to a bit of The Dry by Jane Harper. So we give the play button a good quick jab and the book will start to be played.
Beginning of title.
The Dry by Jane Harper. Narrated by Stephen Shanahan.
About this digital talking book.
A lot of people don't always want to hear all the details about the book at the start, but we always record all the information. So to skip to the beginning of the book, we use the fast forward button and we just give it a tap.
Prologue. It wasn't as though the farm hadn't seen death before. And the
And
blowflies
not
didn't
everyone
discriminate.
likes to read the
To
prologue,
them,
so
there
we
was
will
little
skip
difference between
forward.
a carpet. Chapter 1.
And here we are.
Even those who didn't darken the door of the church from one Christmas to the next could tell there would be more mourners than seats. A bottleneck of black and grey was already forming at the entrance as
Now,
Aaron
if I
Falk
want to
drove
skip
up,
forward to the
trailing a
next
cloud of
chapter,
dust and
I can
cracked
just
leaves.
tap that.
Chapter 2. Aaron Falk, don't you bloody dare leave.
If you
Falk was
want to
standing
go
by his
backwards,
car, fighting the urge to... Chapter 1.
you do that.
Even those who didn't darken the door of the church...
Sometimes
from
you
one
just
Christmas
want to
the
go
next
forward
could tell
by a
there would be
couple of
more mourners than
lines.
seats.
And to do this, you
A
just
bottleneck of
hold
black
your
and-
finger on it and you will hear the rhubarb noise, which we cheerfully call it, and that will go
The air
forward.
conditioner rattled into silence and the interior began to warm immediately. He allowed himself a moment to scan
And to stop the
crowd,
book,
although he didn't
we
really
just
have
tap it.
time.
Once the book is stopped, it remembers exactly where the borrower was up to. So the borrower can go outside and put the washing on the line, can answer the doorbell, pick up the phone, have a chat for a while, hang up the phone, and then come back and turn the player on, and it will be back to the place that they were listening to exactly.
Time. He dragged his heels the whole way from Melbourne, blowing out the 5-hour drive to more than 6. Satisfied no one looked familiar, he stepped out of the car.
So that covers the first set of buttons, the rewind, the fast forward, and the play stop button. And as you've already noticed that those buttons are multifunctional. The play stop button can be tapped once to skip chapters. It can be held down to move forward a line or a paragraph or two. So people have the choice of how they would like to access their book. People can choose what book they would like to read. So we've just listened to a bit of The Dry, but maybe we've got a little bit tired of that. So let's just choose something else.
Bookshelf.
The Australian Financial Review, Saturday, August 4th, 2018.
And then we just tap the play button. Once more, and we have to wait a little bit for that title to be retrieved from our computer system, but it
Beginning
will
of
come
title.
through.
Australian Financial Review, Saturday the 4th of August, 2018. First edition, a Vision Australia production. Copyright Fairfax Media, section. News, sub.
And we can stop that after listening it for a while. Go back.
Bookshelf.
The Dry by Jane Harper expires Tuesday the 9th of October.
And we tap play, and The Dry will be back and at exactly the same place that we left the book at.
The late afternoon heat draped itself around him like a blanket. He snatched open the back seat door to get his jacket, searing his hand in the process. After the...
Now, I'm going to talk about how to return a title from the bookshelf. First of all, you choose the title that you would like to return.
Travel Friday, June 1st, 2018.
I think it's time this got returned. It's June. So next we go to this square button here and we tap it once.
The title is reserved to be returned. Press enter to confirm.
So we move across to the play stop button and give that a tap.
Return 1. Title from the issue list. Are you sure?
And we are sure. So we tap it once again.
Enter.
And the book is being returned. And it will tell us that in a moment.
1. Title has been returned from the issue list. Updating the bookshelf.
So it's just going through the process of reorganising the books on the bookshelf.
Has been updated. Select title.
The Dry by Jane Harper expires Tuesday the 9th of October.
And there we are. So we've returned a title. Once a title has been returned from the bookshelf, the computer takes note of this, and if 2 or 3 books are returned on the same day, when the library borrower goes to bed that night, we will update the bookshelf and refill those empty slots on the bookshelf. Now the next thing I'm going to just talk about is a few tips about troubleshooting the Daisy player, so that if you run into anything that you wonder why the player's not working properly or something's happening, it might help you out. The first thing to do is to always check that the aerial has been screwed in tightly at the back. If the aerial's not screwed in tightly, it won't pick up the signal, and of course the books won't come into the player. The other thing is to always check that the power cord is plugged in properly and plugged in at the power point and turned on. Now I know that sounds like a silly thing, but we have had occasions where people have rung up and the power point has just been turned off. So this way we know the power is going into the player correctly and the aerial is connected correctly too. The next thing that a lot of people do that causes problems with operating this player is when they go to play their book, instead of giving the player a quick tap or jab like I've been doing, they sometimes, and it's quite understandable that they do it, sometimes people lean on this button quite hard because they want to make it work. So they do this.
Title information.
The Dry.
Name of the author.
Jane Harper.
Overview.
Amid the worst drought to ravage Australia in a
And
century,
so
it has entrained
so
in
you get a
small country
complete
towns where for 10
rundown
years,
of the
tensions
book
in the community
and
become
what's
unbearable when
happened
3
to the
members of
player.
Haidler family are
You
brutally
can stop
murdered
it just
every
by doing that, and then if you go back and just tap the book button, the book will start to play. So that is a common problem with people pressing this button too hard, and I'm just going to stop that now, and it causes confusion. So if you're speaking to a borrower and they're saying, oh, it's broken every time I press the button, it gives me all this other information I don't know anything about. It can be as simple as just not leaning on the button so hard. That's probably the 3 main things to worry about, is that the aerial is in one piece and connected properly. It's plugged in properly to the back, and this button isn't being pressed too hard. The other thing to realise too, even though that there is a CD slot in the front of the player, you actually can't put a CD into the 3G player, and it's just something that people don't always realise, and it's worth making that point. So now we're just going to turn the player off, which is simply by pressing that button.
Power off.
And the player will turn off, and that will be the end of the session. The player will still remember where the borrower is up to in all of the things that they have been reading, and when they turn the player back onto, it will come straight to the book that they were listening to last of all. Thank you very much for tuning into this little session about how to use the 3G Daisy player. I know that's a lot of information to take in, but it is a fairly simple machine to use. If you or a client are having any problems in using the player, please don't hesitate to call us on 1300 654 656, and we'll be very willing to help you. Thank you.